Hi YouTube. Finally got a second to get down here and do my labor and delivery story. I know it's been a really long time. Benjamin actually turned 3 weeks old yesterday, so it's been interesting 3 weeks with all 3 kids and my husband working a ton of overtime. It's just been so exhausting and tiring, and yes. So anyway, enough about that. I guess I will start with, I was scheduled to be induced Friday, June 24th. I had to be at the hospital at 6 a.m., which was awful. I ended up getting maybe 2.5 hours of sleep that night. So, we got to the hospital, got registered, got into our room, and they hooked the IV in, which was a pain in the butt. So, finally got that started. When I first arrived at the hospital, they checked me. I was 3 centimeters, 50% effaced, I believe, yes. And the baby was a -3 station, so he was still pretty high up. And they weren't really concerned about that, though, because that's pretty normal in, second, third, fourth time moms to, not drop until you're actually, in labor. So, anyway, that's where I was when I first got there. About 8 a.m., they finally started the Pitocin, and they just started it, lightly. They had to stop it when I was only at, 6. They upped it to 6, and that's not a lot at all, because this is my 3rd induction, so I know. They said that I was having 4 contractions in every 10 minutes, so they couldn't keep upping it. Oh my goodness. Tongue-tied. And they have to be really careful too, because I'm a VBAC and I have that scar. So, anywho, I just sat there for a while, with the Pitocin at 6, and my contractions were, even though I was getting 4 every 10 minutes, they were really mild. They were probably on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say about a 3 or a 4. So they weren't bad, and I was fine. We just kind of watched TV and sat around, and my sister and my niece ended up coming, and my niece is older. She's 17. I have 7 brothers and sisters and 20-something nieces and nephews, and they're all different ages. I actually have a niece and a nephew that are actually older than me. So I'm the baby of the family. But anyway, that was totally besides the point. My niece and my sister were there, and we were just joking around, just having a good time, and everything was fine and kind of boring. So around 11 a.m. they came in to check me, and I was 4 to 5 centimeters and 60 to 70% face. Baby was still a -3 station, and pretty much just went back to the same things, just talking and watching TV and joking around, and they just kind of let me sit there. 5 o'clock finally rolled around, and my doctor was getting ready to leave. She was at the office working all day. She was getting ready to leave to go home for a few hours, so she just kind of went to see if I had made any progress, and I was still only about 5 centimeters, and everything else was the same. So they said maybe a little bit more thinned out this time. I was thinning out very slowly. My water was still intact. It was bulging. They didn't want to do anything, obviously. Residents, I don't think, can anyway. They had to wait for my doctor. So they said because I wasn't changing and he was so high up, what they were going to do was, they said my doctor would be back at 9 o'clock. She would make the decision. She was either going to break my water. They wanted me to be totally thinned out. So they were either going to break my water, or they were going to turn off the Pitocin and then let me get a shower, get something to eat, and sleep, and then they were going to start it again in the morning. So then from 5 to 7, I had the same nurse, and the Pitocin still was not turned up at all. When the nurses changed, I got a new one. She was younger, and she was really nice. she started, like, turning the Pitocin up because she's like, let's, like, try to get things maybe going, and then they can break your water when your doctor comes in. Because I kind of said, I was like, I just really want this to be over with. Like, I don't want to have to wait again until the next morning. So they started upping it when my nurse started, like, upping it, and the contractions were getting, like, more intense, obviously, like they would. And I was starting to, like, having to breathe through them. She got me like, the birthing ball, and I, like, was on that from about 7:30 to 9, and I just sat there and was just, like, bouncing and bouncing and bouncing, and just breathing through my contractions, and I was, like, hoping to be able to have my water broke when the doctor got in at 9. So finally 9 o'clock rolled around. I sent my sister and my niece, like, home because they were getting hungry. I was like, go home and eat dinner, and then I'll text you. Like, if they break my water, then I'll text you and come back. And then if they don't, well, then I'll see you in the morning. So 9 o'clock rolled around, and this is where it gets crazy, everybody. Because up until this point, like I said, I was fine. I wouldn't even consider myself really, like, in active labor. Like, I was fine. So my doctor comes in, they check me, they're like, you're still about 5 centimeters. Like, everything was the same. I was 100% thinned out, though. Totally, like, effaced. So my doctor was like, I can definitely break your water. She's like, it's bulging, it's right there. And I think that as soon as I break this water, she's like, the baby's head's going to come right down. And she's like, I'm hanging out in the hallway. So they kept joking with me that they really thought things were going to go fast. And I was like, I knew things were going to get, like, probably more intense for me, because that's exactly what happened with Gabriel's birth. When he broke my water. Like, my water wasn't broke by doctors. Like, it broke on its own. But as soon as that happened, like, an hour and a half later, I had him. But I honestly did not think it was going to be like that this time. And especially since they were breaking my water. So, just thinking about it, I'm sorry. It was crazy. So, 9:10, they broke my water, and I felt like the big, pop gush, all that. Oh, it's yucky feeling, I think. I don't like it. It's gross. So, immediately, like, next contraction, no joke, was, like, through the roof in pain. It was, like, a 10, and I was like, oh my gosh. And it just took off from there. My contractions were one right on top of the other, just boom, 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 boom. That's my phone, if you can hear it. Just one right on top of each other. I could not get a break, and I kind of lost my head. It was just insane to me. Like, even when I look back on it, I don't want another labor like this. It was so nothing, and then just crazy. So, one right on top of the other. I told my nurse, I said, oh my gosh, like, can you get my doctor, because I can't do this. Like, I cannot do this. And she went and got my doctor, and my doctor came in, and she checked me, and she was like, well, what was I? Oh, no, actually, she didn't check me. I just told her, I said, listen, I was, like, freaking out. I had a labor before, and, I was induced and everything else, and this is insane. I cannot catch a break. So they turned my Pitocin down to, like, half. I think at this time it was about 18. They turned it back down to, like, 9. And the contractions hurt really bad still, but they weren't, like, right on top of each other. So then finally I was, like, able to, like, catch that little bit of break that I really needed. When they did that, my doctor was like, well, let me go ahead and check you and see where we're at, because I was getting, like, if I was only 6 centimeters, I don't know if I can handle this, because I don't know if I said this, but, like, once my water broke, she kind of felt again, and I was 6 centimeters. So This was about 9:30. She checked me, and she said, you're about 7 to 8 centimeters. And I was like, okay, I can do this. But I just, like, sat there and was, like, breathing. And my mind just, like, went to a different place because, like, I kind of, like, remember what was going on. But, like, there's some things that, like, it just feels, like, kind of foggy to me. I saw my doctor go into, like, there was, like, a little room. And she started, like, getting ready, like, for the birth. So I guess she, like, knew at that point that he was coming, like, really quick. And she started, like, you know, getting all her little tools ready. And I just sat there and was, like, like, breathing and clutching onto my husband and telling him that I could not do this. And of course, it's funny because, like, when you're like, I can't do this, like, everybody's telling you, like, relax, you can do this, you're doing it. And I just was, like, getting madder. Like, I was like, you're not listening to me. But I finally, like, started to calm down and, you know, relax. And then I was fine again. So finally, my doctor was like, she's like, well, you're 8 centimeters. She's like, as soon as you start feeling some pressure, she's like, let me know. She's like, I'm just going to stay right here. So she came over to, like, the edge of the bed, like, on her little stool. And I sat there, and I just kept breathing through them. And finally, I would say about 9:50, I think my husband said it was. About 9:50, 9:51, I finally told her I feel pressure. So she checked me, and she said, your baby's head is right there. She's like, so we're good. I'm, you know, completely dilated, and we're good to go. So they took off the, you know, the edge of the bed, and they got the little stirrups ready. And my husband had texted my sister at 9:10, and literally, as soon as they took the stirrups up, the edge of the bed off, and they put the stirrups up, my sister and my niece came in. So thankfully, they made it. They were getting, they had to, like, get stopped by security and get, like, little name tags and stuff. But anyway, so I'm so glad they made it, because my sister actually missed Gabriel's birth because it went so fast. But she made it this time. And my sister had, no, a nurse had one leg, my husband had the other leg, Matthew. And my sister just, I really loved her being there, because that first push burned like a blowtorch up my hoo-ha. I'm not trying to scare anybody, by the way. It's just, there was, like, reasons for it, and I will, like, once I'm done, you'll know the reason. So it burned like a blowtorch up my hoo-ha, and I was like, it burns. And it took me by surprise, because, again, even though I know they say that labors and deliveries are so different, like, even with the same mom, like, between, like, your other kids, I just thought that, like, I would feel the same way with Gabriel. Like, with Gabriel, I had such a strong urge to push, and it felt so good. It felt wonderful, and I had no issues with him. And this time, like, when I pushed, I thought it was going to feel like that, and it didn't, and it burned, and it, like, freaked me out. So I started pushing about 9:51, 9:52, somewhere in there, and I freaked out a little bit because of the burning, and that's, like, I'm so glad my sister was there, because she grabbed my hand, and she grabbed my face, and I just focused on her, and she was like, get this baby out, you can do it, let's go, you know, and not, like, in a mean way, but she just was like, you can do this, and I just, like, focused on her, and I pushed with all my might, and at one point, like, I just sat there, I was like, they were like, you handled it so well. Like, afterwards, my sister was like, she was like, I was, like, freaking out. She's like, you just sat there and were, like, breathing, and I was pretty in control. And, like, maybe 2 or 3 pushes later, I felt his head, like, really starting to come out, and they were like, this is it. And, like, I pushed, and I felt the head come out, and then she told me, push, like, with all of your might, and, like, I felt her kind of, like, pull, and, like, I didn't feel like that, you know, when the shoulders come out, like, that they just like come flying out then. And she was like pulling, and I was like, oh my gosh, I hope his like shoulders aren't stuck like in my head, and I just like was like pushing with all my might. And finally, like, I felt him come up, like, come out, and then they put him right up on my chest, which was wonderful. And he was born at 10 o'clock p.m. So, yeah, that's why I had, like, lost my mind at one point, because 9:10, my water was broke, and 50 minutes later, he decided that he was going to grace us with his appearance. So, it was insane. And of course, like, my husband and I got teary-eyed, and he had so much hair. Well, he has a lot of hair. And I was just like, oh my gosh, he has hair, because none of my other kids had hair. They were bald as bald can be. He was just so perfect, and came out crying, and he was just beautiful. And my doctor, like, told me, like, I was like, I'd deliver the placenta, which I don't like doing that. It's gross. She said, you would not have torn, but he came out like this. And that is why it burned so bad, because he was not coming out right. He was totally, like, choking himself, pretty much, with his arm. And when he came out, and that's why I had to push really hard, too, like, when she was trying to get the shoulders out. Because my husband said, like, when his head came out, she saw his hand, like, right by his face. So, yeah, that's how the little booger came out. He did not want to come out at first, so he was comfortable in mommy's belly, I guess. And they took him and they weighed him, and he weighed 8 pounds, 3 ounces, although I thought he was going to be another 6-pound baby, like my other 2 boys, because he didn't look much bigger, but he was 8 pounds, 3 ounces, and almost 21 inches, so I cannot believe he's here, and it was such a, I'm really glad I got to go, like, I did it natural, like, I didn't get an epidural. It's just nice to be able to, like, just get up and, like, walk around. But at the same time, I didn't like how fast it was. It was a little bit intense for me to go from, like, nothing happening to, like, 50 minutes later, like, him being here. I know that probably, like, sounds ideal to, like, a lot of people, but it's, like, you can get sick. Like, I was getting, like, really nauseous, like, when I was around 8 centimeters, and it was crazy. So, finally got to do my labor and delivery story, and that's it. And, what else did I want to say? Oh, you'll get to see him when I do his 3-week update, like, you know, how he's been doing the past 3 weeks, and I'm also going to do my 3-week, postpartum video. I'm hoping to do them tonight, but I might do them in the morning, so we'll see. So I guess that's it, and you will see him in the next video, I promise. Okay, everybody, bye.